It's Isengard Abridged! And previously we fought a messy but ultimately victorious battle to decide the fate of New Rohan, taking down one of their armies. Then we encountered the free army they spawned a while back on a bridge, and also took them down in another messy affair. Meanwhile, far away, we were forcing our way into Khazad-dûm. We took the mines of Moria. However, the dwarves then spawned a couple of armies outside, so our war with them continues. At the start of the turn after the battle at Khazad-dûm, you can see they've walked off, and this is a bit of an issue because they can walk into some of my territory and take it, which would be inconvenient. I can just run at them right now and attack. However, I also didn't really want to, mainly because there are so many bridges here. I was like, surely we can tempt them to come and attack us on a bridge somewhere. So we leave basically nothing in the mines. Luckily just a few troops and some tax breaks are enough to have the dwarves be happy to be ruled by the Uruks. And I move my main force to go stand on a bridge next to them, just seeing if I can tempt them in to give myself an easy fight against these guys. Meanwhile, in the east, we've got our situation with Rohan to carry on with, and here we can do a cheeky trick actually, because they didn't move in the last turn. I can besiege the town and then use Saruman to attack the army outside. I was hoping to get a fight there because we could take them out, but they retreated, and now we're stuck in the town zone of control, so we might as well just besiege it even more. So I ended up just leaving that siege going, and I'll let Rohan decide what happens there. My main force, my main reinforcement army that is gradually approaching as well, so waiting around does give us an advantage. Here we are in the next turn. Obviously nothing happened basically. Some more reinforcements from the west have arrived to give a general to our backup army there. So yes, Rohan's just standing there, and I decided, well, I'm going to do this the slow way actually, not only to give our enemies a chance, but mainly to not go through the Dol Guldur territory, so they hate me less. And that's only really a factor because I realise they have a big stack next to my stack, and I don't want them to actually declare war on me. As for the dwarf situation, they seem to be walking off in a strange direction. They've gone off towards Fangorn Forest. I thought maybe they're taking some sort of very indirect route to get to Isengard. Well, a direct route I suppose, a straight line but a very slow way to get there. However, by the next turn, they've actually gone around via another river crossing and are now on the other side of my army that was guarding the bridge behind them. So not really sure where they're going. They've gone for a little wander about in the countryside. Now they're starting to come back around to our neck of the woods. Now we could still just attack them to solve this situation, but I wanted to still try and get a bridge battle, but then I was also aware they could go for Khazad-dûm, so I did this little move. By putting one unit on that forest that they'll have to pass through to get to Khazad-dûm, we'll potentially delay them, we'll force them to take a longer route, or we might be able to ambush them and make the enemy forget what's going on. Meanwhile, the main army sits around on the bridge, sets up some signs saying free gold or whatever, and we just hope the dwarves show up. Let's see what happens. Well, they actually went via the forest route as it turns out. This battle isn't that good. We've got an ambush so we can surprise them with our weak troops, but I couldn't be bothered to see if this would lead to anything. We ought to resolve that and take the loss. The survivors just retreat back to that fort. And this does do the job actually, because the dwarves don't do anything else this turn, so we stopped them attacking Khazad-dûm at least. We still haven't got our objective of fighting the bridge battle though. Now at the start of the next turn, it looks like the Dark Lord wants us to go and attack Imladris. He's calling an invasion, basically, an evil crusade. And we have to go over there and help. Well, we don't have to, but he'll be annoyed if we don't. However, how could we possibly attack our noble allies, the High Elves? So I'm going to ignore that, effectively. I'm skipping ahead a couple of turns now, because nothing happened for a while, and you can see we've almost got the Rohanese to surrender here at that siege. The reinforcements nearby have actually managed to get their way down here. I did have my reinforcement stack standing off against Dol Guldur here, thinking, are they coming down to attack me? But they were probably going after this army here, actually. Anyway, I thought we might as well go and attack them with this army, but it's the old you ran out of movement right in front of them thing. So we just awkwardly stand there, and they can wander off. They won't want to fight us because we're so much stronger, obviously. But all this means we're going to take the settlement because they ran out of turns. So there we have it, we sack that place up. And as it happens, that is actually the final Rohan settlement. We'll see that for sure in a second. Now back to the dwarf situation also still going on. Nothing's been happening for a while. They walked up and down for a bit, and then they wasted a few turns trying to siege my 2 units out of this little fort here. I've sent my main force back to Khazad-dûm by this point, Actually, I fought this battle in case we got some sort of crazy map and could do some exploits or something. But it was just like a normal castle map. And of course, we got annihilated. We killed like 100 of the dwarves or something, so that'll help out. And now the dwarves have that fort, but they just walked straight out of it afterwards, so that doesn't really change anything. And yes, now that we've reached the next turn, I send this spy to try and find that Rohan army again, seeing that it's no longer a Rohan army, it's become independent. So that is confirmation that Rohan are dead, and here's further confirmation they're not in our list of enemies anymore. We have finally done it. I thought they still had another territory somewhere, but apparently not. Possibly they lost it to someone else. So, we've achieved our victory objective. The objective is to kill Rohan and get 30 regions. We've killed Rohan and we have 20-something regions. So we don't have that much more to do in this campaign, actually. Back with the dwarves. Well, now they've split their forces up here. Not really sure what they're doing, and I decided to just completely ignore them at this point. I was like, just go and take my territory so I know where you are. I'm tired of walking backwards and forwards and things. At the start of the next turn, Sauron sends us some money, a very small amount of money. Money is not really a problem for us, so I guess that's just some sort of bribe to make us go on his crusade, but we're still not going to do it. And check this out, we are the strongest faction. It's now official. I think we're already the most advanced faction as well. Isengard is truly the best. Now as for what I'm doing over here, I realise we might as well keep going a bit more because there's this purple faction to our east. They've only got this one territory that we can see. I think there's another one over here near this water. And they're a good sized human faction of some kind, I believe. So we might as well go and kill them since their armies are here. In particular, since we still have our big reinforcement stack. And I haven't used it for anything. So we're going to spend a while gradually setting up on the border. It's going to take a while, but I do want to wait for my reinforcement stack to come along so we can try out our trolls and our super upgraded berserkers and stuff. Accidentally pissed Dol Guldur off again there, but hopefully they'll get over it. Now back to the Dwarven situation. They started wandering off to the south again, so I decided to move all of my troops out of Khazad-dûm and down to the fort, which they have now abandoned, not only to get the fort back on my side, but just to see if it would do anything. The chances of the dwarves actually attacking that fort again weren't that high, but I thought they might try. What they actually did was more clever in the end. This is 2 turns later. They sat around to the south and then they just walked past the fort to attack Khazad-dûm. I obviously could have gone and sat on the bridge to stop them from doing that, but this was beyond the point of me even trying. So they've walked past me and now they can besiege Khazad-dûm and force a battle out of me. So I thought, well, we might as well just attack them now before they start the siege. I went in to attack the first army. Annoyingly, it retreats back to be next to the second army, so now we have to fight everything at once. Thought we might be able to get away with this because our guy has the night fighter trait, so we can do a night attack. However, as you'll see in a second, they also have the night fighter trait. So night battle doesn't do anything except get rid of my few reinforcement units, who don't even need to be in a separate army. Not sure why I didn't bother merging them into the main army, but anyway, the fight is actually balanced. I thought they would have an advantage, but their armies aren't that good. They don't have tons of the really good heavy infantry, whereas our army is pretty good for our faction. We've got a load of berserkers and the actual Uruk warriors and Uruk pikemen units who have good stats. So here it is, the decisive battle to decide the fate of Khazad-dûm again. While walking across the field, they started hitting me with their catapults. I figured their catapults would be like the usual ones in Medieval 2, where they shoot in a really horizontal line. But no, they're more like mortars, these guys. They can shoot right up above where you can see them with the camera, and then they just drop down. And occasionally they're actually hitting me, so I'm going to run forwards and get this fight started a little bit faster than I would otherwise have. Luckily the dwarves were also coming down off their hill towards me, so we get this fight started on nice flat ground. The actual strategy is to have all of the spears and pikes in a big line in the center trying to hold the enemy in place, while all of the regular melee infantry goes around both flanks. On the left flank here, we have a lot of open space to use. I noticed some of my men were dying real fast. Looks like there was a direct hit from their mortars in the middle of my unit there. Very nasty. And anyway, I'm also sending a similar group around to the right flank. However, because the enemy have a lot of reserve stuff here, they didn't fully commit to our battle in the center. This flank's really just going to be an extension of the main line, and only 1 or 2 units will actually be going around to achieve anything or any flank attacks. In fact, it's a similar situation on the left, because they had a bunch of archers here, and I thought, well, I'll just clear them away by running at them, but a lot of them are good archers who can also survive in melee. So for all of my desire to have flank attacks, I think only 1 unit actually got behind enemy lines by the end of things. I guess these berserkers here could have gone around, but I wanted to take out that enemy general who's right on his own at the far edge of the line, and berserkers can take down a dwarven general's bodyguard. We've seen that happen before, so we leave that going over there to try and get the assassinate. The catapults are still doing their thing. I really wanted to stop them because this could be dangerous. A few good hits and our units will be severely diminished. But with only one unit actually behind the enemy, we can only really stop one set of catapults. So we run in here to get the crew into melee, hopefully a melee we can win. There are other units nearby though, and they're going to be attracted into this fight. So the other catapults are still going to be free. Luckily they just kind of stopped firing. I think they were repositioning them for a while, so not much was happening. Looks like the berserkers are doing the job against the enemy dwarven bodyguards, but along the rest of the line it's a real mixed bag. We're taking a lot of losses and so are they. Even their Khazad-dûm sentries, which I thought weren't going to be that good, were a match for our pikes and Uruk warriors, and especially for our spear guard, who aren't actually that good in melee. Even their archers were managing to take down my troops on the left. So that was a little bit annoying. I thought we'd break through a bit more. It's still just the one unit behind enemy lines. However, they have done their work. They've taken out the first set of catapults. The other sets actually moved over to be real close, so I just ran past the few surviving crewmen and got them into melee as well so that they wouldn't fire. That makes things feel a lot more safe. The berserkers have almost finished their job. We barely took any losses. These dwarven bodyguard units seem to be worse than many of their other heavy infantry units that they have available. That's all good, and soon enough we actually kill the man himself. I think that was the new faction leader of the dwarves, so that's him off the field. But no mass routes or anything, we still need to keep going. At least those berserkers are freed up for some outflanking. The central battle line has kind of fragmented because both sides have taken extreme casualties, and now we need to try and get some surrounds going. We've got some units that aren't engaged, small units, but even a small unit making a rear attack has some effect on morale, and things like the sentries aren't basically unroutable. We can actually get rid of a few of these surviving units. They have some other guys, they were called Isengard or something, who did not go away and were just slaughtering everything. However, we are starting to win at last on the balance bar after having lost half our army so far. Some units are routing now, and I'm going to dedicate a few units to chasing them down to make sure we get the right proportion killed. And on the front lines, making a few rear attacks does start to clear things up. We see some larger groups routing away, and this is going to be a chain reaction. The balance bar is now quite far in our favour as things start to be routing. We'll slaughter them as they go. With them being mostly slow units, this is actually quite easy. Even though we don't have any cav, our berserkers can just run around killing everything. And even the elite units like the Isengard eventually started routing once virtually everything was dead. With one exception, their other general did not rout, so the battle was effectively over, but there's this one guy fighting in one of the melees that's keeping everything going. So we can use this time to micromanage our pursuits and make sure we get that golden percentage number. I think we're actually already there by this point in the battle. Eventually, that one general manages to die in that blob, which ends the fight right away, and that looks good. We did get trashed, we've certainly been cut down to size, and we've lost a few full units as well. But that doesn't necessarily matter right now. This army's done its job. It's won this war. The High Lord of Moria is dead. And he'll say in a second that Khazad-dûm have been defeated as a faction officially, no more free spawns. So we've done it, the dwarves are gone, except for the dwarves that are allied to us. This army can now just sit around and sit in Khazad-dûm in factions, think about what they've done. Once we get some culture going at Khazad-dûm, we'll probably be able to start recruiting good units here as well and actually retrain this force. A few turns later, we have started marching into this purple territory, Dorwinion it's called, and you can see the force defending their settlement is very unique. They've absolutely spammed generals somehow, so we need to deal with that. There's actually a guy standing outside the town, so this is a siege draw-out situation. But I think I messed it up here by moving Saruman into position first. They're not happy. I realised I wasn't at war with them, but we can quickly sort that out. Yes, having Saruman there means the balance bar was probably too far in our favour, so it didn't actually cause a siege draw-out. However, I'm going to inadvertently actually still get a siege draw-out. First, I besieged the town, then I sent Saruman to attack that little group again. That doesn't cause a draw-out, of course, because of the siege. However, the siege stops them going back inside the town after they lost, so they retreat and are still standing next to it. Now I can lift the siege with my other army and fight those survivors to once again have a siege draw out, and this time Saruman isn't in reinforcement range, so it actually happens. I think they can't retreat with that first army either, so they would actually have to bring it out even if Saruman was here. So in many ways this is suboptimal, but still I wanted to fight this battle because it looks like a special one. Absolutely loads of generals, and a few decentish looking units in there as well. I think they're probably actually supposed to be quite good, it's just after fighting dwarves and elves, all these good units look like trash to me now. Anyway, we started walking towards them. They were moving this cav unit across the face of their army. I started hitting them with some arrows, and they weren't too bothered about that. I think we actually killed more than half of that cav unit as it gradually trotted in front of us. Here's a look at what we're mostly going to be facing, these generals' bodyguards. They're high paladins, they're called, an armoured two-handed sword unit. Pretty good stuff. Luckily our army is good as well, so we can face them down. We have quite a lot of berserkers in particular, so I wanted to get a nice berserker charge. I've got this formation with all of my lighter infantry in front and the heavier stuff behind, so we're going to start things off with a charge. We're also being hit by crossbow bolts, so I'm going to accelerate the process here. We're going to do this via an unusual method, the synchronized charge. If you just pause the game, you can give all the orders at once. You're sort of supposed to do this while playing. I generally don't as a sort of house rule challenge run, but there's one major advantage to doing this, and that is you can actually look at the charge because you're not microing things while your units are also making the attacks. So we can see the enemy's colourful high paladins get slammed by our berserkers. Doesn't really do anything because they're such a strong unit, we can't just berserker charge them down, but berserkers are strong too, so hopefully those fights will work out. Our Isengard are less strong and they are going to get a little bit owned by the high paladins, but we have to do something here. Now that the first line has engaged, the second line will form up to go through the gaps that end up forming, and we're going to go around on the right flank as well, including with the trolls over there, another new unit to our roster. This got messed up a little bit actually. We ended up fighting a unit that sort of seeped through, so we didn't really go around the enemy formation. I wanted to get a nice charge off, but still this melee should be okay. The trolls just absolutely slam everyone with giant hammers, that should do the trick. Against trash units, that probably annihilates them, but against high paladins, which are good, I'm guessing they sometimes survive being slammed with the hammers. It'll get the job done eventually though. We need to try and make use of the fact we have walked through the enemy line at some point, so we can get some flanks going on these blobs. The blobs aren't all that good for us in some places where we are taking heavy losses, so it would be nice to actually try and gain some sort of an advantage. Perhaps we could kill the enemy general, ho ho ho. On the left flank, our pikes are fighting the enemy's heavy cav, so that's great. Although those heavy cav were also slaughtering my nearby raiders. There's one, we've got one general. I can't remember the name of the guy who's actually leading, so maybe at some point we'll get him. Here's me realizing my raiders are getting annihilated in this fight with the cav. We're supposed to be fighting with the pikes, but the cav are just ignoring them, so I'm going to run away with the raiders, and handily the cav then turns to fight the pikes head on, just what we need. Elsewhere, this fight's breaking down really. Some enemies look like they're routing, but they're just running away. So the whole line thing is out the window, but that suits us because we have more units than them. It's easier for us to surround stuff. And we have the trolls gradually working their way down the right. They've already taken out one unit of paladins, now they're fighting a regular unit that looks similar and some more paladins and doing the work. We are not losing any of them by the looks of things. I'm guessing they have tons of hit points. Got another general there. Here's General 3 at some point. They're just somewhere in the line, no point trying to seek out these guys. Here's that fight with our pikes against the enemy's heavy cav. We were killing them very slowly. The pikes aren't very good offensively it seems, but very slowly we will get through that unit. There's a fourth general down somewhere. I think we still haven't killed the leading general. I think the leading general had a title on his name. But the trolls have cleared things up on the right, and in the center, well, it's just a big mess. There's another one and another one. Those generals are falling left, right, and center, but their bodyguard units are effectively unroutable, so we're still going to be fighting these guys afterwards. We're not making that much progress. We're just brute forcing this battle. We're going to win, as you can see on the balance bar. We have enough stuff to hack through everything, but it will be very messy. It will take substantial losses. Down goes another general there, and our trolls have now got right behind the enemy army. We're taking out the enemy's crossbows, who actually survived surprisingly well against the trolls, I'm guessing because they have loads of armor and stuff. Some of them survived long enough to hear of the death of another general. The nobility of this faction is just going downtown in this fight. I then sent the trolls into the last main blob, and I noticed that when they attack, they do appear to damage your own side as well. Not sure if it actually kills your guys, but they send them flying with their area of effect style attacks. So if anyone knows whether that's actually killing my guys, let me know. I guess I don't care all that much ultimately. They're all expendable. We grab another general kill, and I think that was the actual leader, something the Merciful. His loss finally tips things over the edge. We've killed 98% of the enemy force, and finally, what remains decides that they're probably not going to win this one. I needed to continue the battle because I counted fewer generals than I had before the fight. We've still got some more to get. And annoyingly, this guy had already started running away earlier, so somebody has escaped ruining my siege draw out. For some reason, he actually almost tripped over the red line of death. Didn't know that had any physical properties, but he made it away in the end. I think one other guy also escaped towards the end. So we have failed the siege draw out, but we have completely liquidated the defenses of this city. Now it is literally 2 guys left inside. We can set up a few ladders, and I suppose we'll be taking that next turn. There's some more business this turn first though, because far away, back at Isengard, the gates of both Isengard and the Hornburg are opening, because we've got 2 more full stacks of decent troops, and I'm going to deploy these guys, not though to march off to our now very distant wars in the east. We are going to go and attack someone a little bit closer to home with these armies. We'll see that in a second. Here though, in the next turn, Mordor have taken over as the most advanced faction. I think it's because they took Minas Tirith. Maybe that gets them some stuff and now they're more advanced than us. Who knows? We're going to auto-resolve that settlement. There are actually more than 2 guys now. I think they spawned another general or something. But no trouble, we're in. They do have another settlement, their capital in fact, over by that sea, the Sea of Ruin I think it's called, something like that. So we'll head over there next time and check that place out with our frontline armies. But we'll also be heading in the other direction as these 2 stacks are ready for our official Enidwaith Revenge beatdown. We need to get a couple more regions to win the campaign, and I thought who better to kill than our old bullies. Let's come back and be like, be careful who you pick on in middle school, bro, with our 2 stacks of elite troops and try to just push them off the map. We'll see how that goes in the next part.